Cloud, cyber, hardware, AI. The four nations lived in harmony until the AI nation attacked. All right, that's enough of that. So you came to this video to figure out if you should become an AI engineer, and I'm gonna give you the full unfiltered take on whether you should become one in this video. And fair warning, this isn't one of those clickbait top 10 AI prompts to learn in 2026 type of videos. We're gonna go way deeper than that, so stick around if you actually wanna see the real truth of becoming an AI engineer. So AI engineering is probably one of the most famous and sought after fields in tech right now, and it can range from anything like building a small machine learning model or recommendation system to training a full model like ChatGPT. But with things like this, it can get really complex really quickly, but that means that it can also be broken down into very simple terms. So in a simple sentence, what exactly does an AI engineer do? So an AI engineer actually builds intelligent systems that learn from data and actually make decisions. But before you actually commit to this path and go down a rabbit hole of learning different materials, I want to actually break down all the different parts in it, good and bad, so you can actually make a really good decision on whether this is something that you actually want to pursue. And I'm going to start with what everybody wants to hear about, the money. So AI engineers can make anywhere from $100,000 to $100 million. And there were actually cases where people made way more than this. So let me take you back to a story in 2025. So back in late 2025, there was actually a period where engineers were posting their salaries online that they were getting offered from these large companies to leave to go to another company. And some of the companies involved were like OpenAI and Meta. And you would see offers of people getting $100 million, $200 million, $300 million, and it was absolutely insane. And this means allegedly the employees were getting offered the same amount as professional athletes. And you would start to think, why are these companies paying so much for these engineers? And that's where the tough part comes in, the day-to-day work. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of the work is gonna feel very tiring and very boring. So 80% of the work is gonna be stuff like cleaning data sheets, figuring out why your model is working locally but not in production, creating data pipelines that can work when there's a lot of users accessing it like ChatGPT, and also sitting in a lot of meetings that you probably don't even care about. And the good thing is that the last 20% is going to be things that you actually care about, building new AI systems. And the thing is that there's not only one main type of role for AI engineers, this can actually be broken up into three separate categories. So the first type is the researcher, and they focus more on implementing papers into the actual machine learning solution. And for this type of role, you want to be very comfortable with things like calculus, linear algebra, and statistics. And this is one of the harder ones to break into because you usually need a master's or a PhD to get started in this. And the second type is a practical builder. So these are people that actually work on products that people will use in the future. So they're actually less focused on whether it's the best algorithm to use in the scenario, if there's a better one, how the math actually works. They're more focused on solving the problems of real people. And finally, we have the application developer. So these are people that are focused more on using existing products like existing LLMs and actually plugging these into apps so that other people can use them. They're actually very similar to the practical builder, but the main difference is that they're not actually building out the products themselves, like the machine learning models. They're actually just implementing these into existing apps. And this is probably the easiest one to break into right now, since a ton of people are building applications that use existing models and different algorithms, and they need people to actually implement them and improve the application. So let's actually go through all the good parts that are consistent throughout all three of these roles and see whether you should consider it or not. And the first one is the most important, and I can't stress it enough, but every company right now is looking for AI engineers. So every company right now is trying to implement AI into their current system. So if you go on a site like LinkedIn and go to the job section, you can actually see that there's a ton of AI engineering roles posted by almost every company. And the reason that companies are doing this right now is with the current surge in AI, and everyone is currently using AI, and it's way easier for a company to hire new developers and new people who have a good understanding of how AI works instead of training their current employees. And reason number two, you're actually building the future. And I know that may sound cheesy, but it's unfortunately true. So if you go in the news and actually look at all the headlines, you can see that a ton of jobs are getting replaced by AI. And the philosophy that a lot of people are going with is that if you can build AI, you won't get replaced by it. And that's the reason why a lot of developers have changed from just building normal software applications to actually working on AI. Because if they can secure their job that way, it makes a lot more sense. And the third reason is going to be very important to a lot of people, but remote work is usually the standard. And since the entire job role is focused on being at your computer at a desk, it's not uncommon for companies who are competing against other companies on a global scale to hire engineers remotely and just have them work from home. And I had to mention that in this list since I know that remote work is super convenient and very helpful in this day and age. And here comes the tough part of the video where I have to tell you about all the different difficulties and misconceptions in the field. So you should not get into AI engineering if you do not like math and you do not want to learn it. And the interesting thing is that the math isn't as hard as you think. You just need to know the right steps and the right way to actually approach it. So I actually made a video that has a ton of resources on how you can actually get started in machine learning and understand the entire math portion. And the funny thing is that the math isn't as complex as you think. And I also made a full roadmap of all the different things you need to know to become a machine learning engineer, including the math, so I'll link that in the description. Building AI systems can take a ton of time. Models often don't work on the first try, and a lot of times not even on the 10th. You can often spend days figuring out why your model's accuracy dropped by 2%. And the final misconception is that AI will replace programmers, including AI engineers. If you look into it, AI engineers can end up writing way more code than most developers. And this is because building machine learning models is not easy and it can take a ton of code. So if you're still convinced that you want to be an AI engineer, how do you actually break into the field? So the main thing that you need to learn is the programming language Python. It's probably the most popular one in the field and used across the industry, and this will be the best use of your time. After this, you need to learn data manipulation, and what I suggest for you to learn is pandas and NumPy, since these are really good and these will also help you down the road. The next thing that you need to learn is a machine learning framework, and the two most common are actually PyTorch and TensorFlow. They're super common and it doesn't really matter which one you pick since they're both really popular in the industry, and if you know one pretty well, you can pretty easily learn the other one. And this is the final and most important skill you need to learn, and this is production skills. So this is actually how you're going to get your code to actual users and allow people to use the software that you built. And at a higher level, the main things that you need to learn are APIs, Docker, and cloud platforms. Using these three things, you can actually get your code into the hands of customers and get people to actually try the software that you built. So the real question is, should you actually become an AI engineer? If you're still on the fence, you can ask yourself these three questions. Do you like problem solving? Are you willing to learn the math? And are you excited about building new things? The truth is that this field isn't for everyone and it's not always easy, but that's completely okay. It's a field that's constantly changing and it requires real dedication to actually understand the things that you want to learn. What you don't want to do is choose this career because it sounds cool or it pays really well. You actually want to be passionate about it so you can stick to it. And if you have any more questions on if you should become an AI engineer, let me know down below and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.